What exactly is hi-fi audio? People throw the word around a lot, but what does it actually mean? Today we're going deep, but in a simple, friendly way. By the end of this video, you'll understand sample rate, bit depth, bit rate, CDs, vinyl, streaming, and what actually makes audio sound high fidelity. Let's begin. Hi-fi stands for high fidelity. Fidelity means faithfulness, as in faithful to the original sound. So when we say something is hi-fi, we mean the playback chain reproduces the music with low distortion, wide dynamic range, and minimal added noise. So what you hear is close to what was originally recorded. To understand hi-fi, we need to understand how digital audio works, starting with sample rate. Sample rate is basically how many tiny snapshots of the sound we take per second. A CD uses 44.1 thousand samples per second. The reason is based on something called the Nyquist theorem. To accurately reproduce the highest frequency you want to hear, you need a sample rate at least twice that frequency. Humans hear up to around 20,000 Hz. So a sample rate slightly above 40,000 is enough to capture every audible frequency. That's why 44.1 kHz works. Next is bit depth. This tells us how precisely we measure each of those snapshots. Higher bit depth means more possible loudness levels for every sample, and that means lower noise and a bigger dynamic range. The formula for dynamic range is simple. 6.02 times the bit depth plus 1.76. So for 16-bit audio, that's 6.02 times 16, which equals 96.32, and then add 1.76. That gives about 98 decibels of dynamic range. For 24-bit audio, 6.02 times 24 equals 144.48, plus 1.76, giving around 146 decibels. That's a huge amount of headroom and extremely low noise. Now let's connect this to bitrate. Bitrate is how much audio data you're getting every second. For uncompressed PCM audio, bitrate equals sample rate times bit depth times number of channels. So for CD audio, we calculate 44,100 samples per second times 16 bits times 2 channels, which equals 1,411,200 bits per second. That's about 1.411 megabits per second. High-resolution 24-bit, 96 kHz audio can go above 4.6 megabits per second. But bitrate also plays a big role in streaming and compressed formats. Lossy formats like MP3, AAC, and Opus reduce the data by removing information that's considered less important to human hearing. Higher bitrate means less information removed and better sound. Lossless formats like FLAC and ALAC preserve the original PCM data exactly, with no quality loss. Then there's high-resolution formats, which use higher sample rates and bit depths, like 24-bit 96 kHz. And there's also DSD, debuted in SACDs, which is a different 1-bit. Ultra-fast sampling system. Now let's compare the most common formats people listen to: CD, vinyl, and streaming. CDs use 16-bit, 44.1 kHz digital audio with about 98 decibels of dynamic range, low noise, and very low distortion. A well-mastered CD is extremely clean and accurate. Vinyl is different. It's not digital at all. The waveform is physically carved into a groove. Vinyl doesn't reach the dynamic range of CD. It usually lands somewhere around 55 to 70 decibels, and it includes surface noise, crackles, inner groove distortion, and mechanical limitations. But many people love vinyl because of its analog warmth and the specific mastering choices used for vinyl releases. It's a different kind of hi-fi experience. Streaming varies the most. Some services use lower bitrate lossy formats around 96 to 160 kilobits per second. Others offer high bitrate lossy options like 256 to 320 kilobits per second. And some platforms now offer lossless and even high-resolution streaming at 16-bit, 24-bit, in sample rates up to 192 kHz. The catch is that the sound also depends on your device, your DAC, your headphones or speakers, and even your internet connection. And this brings us to an important truth. The audiophile itself is only one part of the hi-fi chain. The DACs that converts digital to analog, the amplifier that powers your headphones or speakers, the speakers or headphones themselves, and even your room all have a massive impact on what you hear. In fact, speakers, placement, and room acoustics often affect your sound far more than switching between 16-bit and 24-bit audio. Another factor is mastering. Even the highest resolution file won't sound good if the music was mastered poorly. The loudness war pushed many tracks to be overly compressed, reducing dynamic range for the sake of loudness. That can make music feel flat, even if the file is technically high resolution. There are also technical concepts like jitter, oversampling, anti-aliasing, and dither. Jitter is timing error in digital playback, which good DACs minimize. Oversampling and anti-aliasing filters prevent distortions when converting between digital and analog. And dither is a tiny noise added when reducing bit depth, for example, from 24-bit down to 16-bit, to prevent distortion and preserve details in quiet parts. So what should you actually focus on if you want better sound? First, upgrade your speakers or headphones, then improve your room acoustics and speaker placement. After that, look at your amplifier and DAC. Finally, choose good quality files, lossless or high bitrate lossy. Format matters, but not as much as the other parts of your setup. To wrap up, hi-fi is about being faithful to the original sound. Sample rate controls the highest frequency you can reproduce. Bit depth controls your dynamic range and noise floor. Bitrate controls how much data the audio has. CDs are clean and accurate. Vinyl is analog and characterful. And streaming gives you everything from low quality to high resolution. But your equipment, your room, and the mastering of the music influence the final sound even more than the file format itself. Thanks for watching. If you learned something new, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments whether you prefer vinyl, CD, or streaming, and why.